cream soda. It's been popular since the late 1800s and it's still around today, obviously. Most people know it as a vanilla soda, just the base flavor, but in reality it's vanilla with a hit parade of other flavors and used in smaller amounts that really bring out that classic cream soda flavor that most people know. Now, I don't drink a lot of cream soda anymore, not like I did when I was a kid, but there is a connection between cream soda and an old-fashioned cocktail that I'm going to show you in the second half of this video that I personally think is brilliant. So stick around for that because we're going to use this flavoring like we use bitters in an old-fashioned. And I'm going to show you the connection there because it's really important. But also, if you just want to make cream soda, this will make 400 liters of cream soda with 100 mils of flavoring for, a few dollars. So let's just get to it because it's one of the easier sodas to make. It doesn't require any special equipment or techniques, just the ingredients. So I'm Darcy O'Neill, this is Art of Drink. And as I mentioned, cream soda is a vanilla-based soda, but it has highlight flavors that are important to bring out that kind of flavor. And this recipe goes back at least 100 years. This recipe specifically comes from the Source Book of Flavors. It was an old textbook. I don't think it's published anymore. You'd have to go to a library to check it out. That's where I checked this one out. It's pretty good. It's kind of that classic cream soda flavor, and this recipe is probably what most cream soda manufacturers base theirs on and then make subtle modifications. But what you really need to start is your base flavor, which is vanillin. Now, you can't use vanilla extract. It's not concentrated enough for this. So you'll need to get vanillin powder. It's cheap. You can get it on Amazon or wherever. If you need a supplier list, I have that over on my Patreon page. But vanillin is the key flavor. Now, I also mix in a little ethyl vanillin because it's perceived to be a better flavor and it's much more concentrated or has a stronger vanilla flavor. When you use the two together, it kind of gives out a more rounded vanilla flavor. So this is the easy part. We just got to get this into the beaker. And I've pre-weighed everything so that it's easier. Next, we're going to add propylene glycol. You can use ethanol if you want. That's what this original recipe called for. But I looked at all the chemistry and everything seems to dissolve in propylene glycol, so this could be a completely non-alcoholic formula. I just preheat my propylene glycol, helps dissolve things quicker. You do need to be fairly accurate when you're measuring this out, so I'm not going to fill this up to the 100 ml mark because we still have to add ingredients. So I generally fill it up to the 70 ml-ish mark. There is a magnetic stirrer in there, so you have to account for that afterwards. Usually what I do is either take a graduated cylinder, so one of these, or a volumetric flask, and add it. But in reality, if you have an accurate beaker, you can get these at the grocery store. You can fill it right up to the 100 ml line, as long as you remove that magnetic stirrer in there. And you can make this without the magnetic stirrer. You just have to stir it with your hand, a fair amount, or put it in a bottle and shake. But basically, I will add enough of that to get started. And then just turn on the stir and get it going. So once you get this started, that's your base flavor. Now we have to add our highlight flavors. It's almost like perfume making. But this is ethyl acetate. It is an ester and it's found in fruits, it's found naturally. It's found in almost every single distilled or fermented beverage. So it's very common in distilled spirits, wines, beers. It has a fruity flavor, but more ethereal. It kind of gives those highlight fruit flavors. So we need to add 2.5 mils of this. Well, that's 5. So these dropper bottles, they actually have a scale on them that helps me measure it, so it's just not random. If you don't have dropper bottles like this, you can just use disposables, and I will be using the disposable ones for this. So that's ethyl acetate. That's just going to give it a fruitier element. The next one is isoamyl acetate. Again, another one you'll find in a lot of fermented beverages, especially malt beverages like Scotch malts and beer. It's known as kind of a banana flavor. So if you've ever eaten those artificial bananas, those little yellow candies as a kid, that's this flavor. And we're only going to use it in a small amount, so 0.6 milliliters. And that's going to give, again, more of a fruit element. In dilution, in concentration, it does have a banana aroma, but as you dilute it out and mix it with other compounds, it kind of has an element of pear, banana, sometimes apple, but it's got basically a fruit aroma. So 0.6 mils of this. And again, you don't have to be super accurate with this. I mean, if you're off by, a 1/10 of a mil, it's not going to make a very big difference. But if you're producing this for commercially, you want to make a cream soda, definitely when you get into bigger volumes, be more accurate. The next is lemon oil. Typically, you'd use terpeneless oils. Terpenes will not dissolve in oil like limonene. And that's an example of a terpene. They will dissolve a little bit in propylene glycol, but in very sparing amounts. So the reality is we just need a mil of this. And once you dilute this out to that 400 liter mark, like I talked about, it will be soluble. So we're just gonna add 1 mil of this. So 1 mil of that. And so in the original formula, they called for 4 mils roughly, but I'm adding citral in this case. Citral is soluble in propylene glycol, not glycerin. If you need to know the difference, propylene glycol and glycerin, I've done a video on it. And if you need to know any of the techniques about making soda, I've got basically a playlist called Making Soda from Scratch, and it will show you everything you need to know. So now with this, with citral, it's kind of that, definitely a citrus aroma. It's soluble in propylene glycol at this level. So we're going to need 1/2 mil of this. And it's got a fairly strong flavor, so you want to be fairly accurate with that. So as you can see, we've got kind of a banana fruity flavor. We've also got this, or kind of an ester quality from these. We've got the citrus quality from this. Next, we're looking at, this is strawberry aldehyde, or aldehyde C16. They do describe it as strawberry, but it's actually more of a red fruit flavor with a kind of leans towards strawberry. But we're gonna add 1 mil of this. And it is kind of viscous, so I have to add it 1/2 mil amounts here. Now that is kind of the red fruit quality. So the next next two, the aldehyde C16 and the next two ingredients, is why this is actually red. So the next one is benzaldehyde. Most people know benzaldehyde as a cherry/almond flavor. If you've ever had Dr. Pepper, you're looking at this, or cherry Coke. This is that kind of cherry quality, maraschino cherries. That's what this is. Now this is fairly concentrated and has a really strong aroma. So I'm only going to add 6 drops of this. And it smells pretty much like almond extract. The one thing about extracts at like the grocery store is that you don't know what concentration is in them, whereas these I do. So this is 50% benzaldehyde in propylene glycol, I believe. So it allows me to kind of know accurately what I'm putting into this. But if you just wanted to do this from grocery store ingredients, you could get the isoamyl acetate, the banana oil, you could get your lemon oil or your lemon extract, and you could get your almond extract and add that to the vanilla, and you'd be getting pretty close. So the last ingredient is beta-ionone, and you may have noticed if you've watched my video on how to make an energy drink, a number of these ingredients went into the energy drink as well. So it's a little bit duplicative. And yeah, so beta-ionone is an extract from rose oil. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there's kind of a period of time where people like to put rose and stuff. But beta-ionone is a component of that, and it has a very red fruit aroma. It actually smells really good. But again, why this is red sometimes is these 3 ingredients create that kind of red fruity flavor that's associated with the vanilla. And this is used in such small amounts that we're literally going to use 2 drops. And if you want the full formulation, again, I have all that. When I do these, I do a worksheet. So if you're actually interested in making these things, just sign up to Patreon. It's $5. Help support the channel. I give you all the where to find the ingredients, all the ingredients, basically a procedure how to make this. So everything's in order. Because when you're making this stuff, though there is wiggle room to the left and right, often you want to be fairly accurate and you need to know your parts per million flavoring, and I also provide all the calculations for you so you know how to use this. But this one's simple enough. I'm just going to bring this up to the 100 mil mark, and then I will finish it off once I take the magnetic stirrer out. But we will let that dissolve, but that is basically your cream soda flavor. And once this is fully dissolved, you can just store it in a bottle. Again, you use this. And then you will take 1 liter, this is actually half a liter, but if you were to take 1 liter of simple syrup, you'd take a pipette and you'd add 2 mils of this into a liter of syrup, and you would actually have your cream soda syrup. That's how easy it is. The cooler part for me is that we're going to use this to flavor an old-fashioned cocktail. We're going to use 1 to 2 drops of this in an old-fashioned cocktail. And if you've noticed anything, and I'll explain it, there's a little foreshadowing here, but all of these components can be found in the old-fashioned cocktail. And I'll explain once we go to the bar. So I'm just gonna let this dissolve. Once you're at the 100 mil mark, it's ready to go. 2 mils of it in a liter of soda, or a liter of simple syrup. You can make 1 to 1 or 3 to 2, whatever ratio you want. Put that in, then you're gonna measure out 1 ounce of the syrup, put it in a glass. You do need a little acid. I use acid phosphate. You can use citric acid. If you're gonna put citric acid into the bottle, you're gonna use about 3 grams per liter. So again, all of this is on the worksheet that I have on my Patreon stuff. So if you're really serious about actually making this, that is probably something you should get. But if you're just curious how to make it and what goes in it, that's pretty much it. Now stick around for the old-fashioned part because I think it's brilliant personally. So let's go do that. We'll just let this dissolve and we'll head over to the bar. So let me show you the connection between an old-fashioned cocktail and cream soda. And we'll start over here by the whiskeys. These 2 esters, ethyl acetate and isoamyl acetate, are probably 2 of the most common esters you're going to find in any fermented or distilled spirit. So when we add them via the cream soda flavoring, we're just basically amplifying what's already there. So these are pretty common. If you ever look up any whiskey tasting notes and you want to know the chemicals, these 2 are usually right up front. So then we have our vanilla note, and vanilla is obviously very important in cream soda, but it's also very important in aged spirits. So whether you're using American oak and you get bourbons and you get that really big vanilla note, or you're using Canadian whiskey in used casks or even brandy or rum, they all have a vanilla note, and that comes from the oak. And so obviously that plays an important part of why we like old fashions. Next we have our citrus, lemon and citral. They're very common in lemon and orange. So this is actually a lemon, it's a Meyer lemon, they're in season now. But this lemon peel matches this lemon in the cream soda formulation. So again, this is just going to amplify what's already in the old-fashioned cocktail. And finally, we have our red fruits and our benzaldehyde. And these are maraschino cherries. It's February in Canada. Finding fresh cherries pretty hard right now. And don't have any Luxardo cherries or brandy soaked cherries. So these will have to do. Though they're not as bad as you think they are. If they were invented today, they'd be the molecular mixology wonderkin of, the last decade. But they do have that benzaldehyde flavor, that cherry almond flavor that we talked about in Dr. Pepper and Cherry Coke. So you're already going to find that flavor in your old fashioned. So, and then obviously we have bitters, which doesn't have an equivalent in there, but it can if you're using orange bitters. You'd obviously match with the orange here. But I have Angostura, and I actually like Angostura in my old fashioned. So let me show you how to make an old fashioned. Typically I'd use a sugar cube, but for video expediency, I'm going to add a little simple syrup. And then I am going to add my cream soda. Basically it's an extract or an essence. Now always make sure you clean off the tip, because it gets quite drippy and you'll get too much in there. The amount you want to use is 1 to 3 drops. and it's just a hint of this cream soda flavor. It's actually going to blend in fairly well, but it's like somebody walking down a street with some perfume or cologne, and you just get a subtle whiff of it. That's all this does. There's no sweetness to be added from this extract or essence. So you're just going to get a hint of that cream soda flavor, and it may play with your mind and give you a few memories. And next we're going to add a couple dashes of Angostura bitters. I usually go 2 or 3. And then we're going to add our bourbon. And I always use 100 proof or above, 50% ABV or above. I just find that it lasts longer, and I do like the bite of spirits. I use 100 proof and above just because I find it works better for me. But you can use anything you want, including brandy, if that is your thing. Now I just give this a stir, and then we'll add a few ice cubes to the mix. If you want, you can use ice blocks. I use a standard old-fashioned glass, not like a double rocks glass. I find these are too big. They give the impression of generosity, but I know I'm getting 2 ounces of bourbon into my drink, so short drink or a short glass works for me. Honestly, again, this idea of faux generosity because the glass is bigger and the ice cube is bigger, but you're still getting the same drink, doesn't really appeal to me. But now we're going to add our lemon peel. You can use orange if you want. I don't express it too much, just a little bit. I don't want too much orange in my old fashioned because it turns it kind of into Grand Marnier. You just get this orange note that's a little too intense. I really want to taste the bourbon. And then finally, we're going to add our maraschino cherry, and that is the old fashioned. You can give it a stir if you want, but it tends to come together pretty well at this point. So I would be happy to receive this drink, and when you taste it, you do just get a hint of it because, again, as I've explained, most of this stuff's already in there, but it does amplify it just a bit, and it does make for I guess a memory that's pulled out of this, that cream soda as a kid memory. It's not in your face, it's not excessive, so it really does work in this, and I quite enjoy it. And I think this is one of the better ways to make an old-fashioned. It's a simple drink. It should be simple, but it can be experimented with. And if you get a chance, do try to make this and try this. I think people will be quite happy. And I think you can make upwards of 1,000 or 2,000 drinks with 100 ml bottle of this essence because you're only using 1 to 2 drops. So this will last quite a long time. And if you need to make cream soda, you can using the same thing. So that's the cream soda old fashioned. It's a curiosity and something I think is pretty cool. So make it. If you do make it, let me know how it works out in the comments. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.